Are you going to play on your phone while I'm doing the introduction?
No, I was just trying to find...
It's like being back at school. Right, hello, welcome. We're doing more first lines today when Scott's finished with his phone. And that means the return of the box of shame. How this works is I hide a book in this box and I read the first line to notorious literary snob Scott, and he decides if he would read any more, and then we discuss why or why not. Let's begin.
So, have I been given the title Literary Snob?
Well, yeah, that's been your title for a long time.
Oh dear.
Ready? The palace still shook occasionally as the earth rumbled in memory, groaned as if it would deny what had happened.
I would read on, maybe, yeah.
You would? What?
Potentially.
What about...
It's just unusual, isn't it? Palace groaning, I think it's...
personification?
Yeah. Some unusual. Yeah, give me the next line.
Bars of sunlight cast through rents in the walls made motes of dust glitter where they yet hung in the air. So it's made motes of dust glitter where they yet hung in the air.
You know, I'm not thinking wow, but I think you need more information.
I liked the first line. There's like the walls of the palace, or the palace groaning and denying. It's like unusual, as we said, personification. It's interesting. There's a bit more than just... But it is starting to lose me with the dust motes, because that is such a cliche that I'm kind of like, we're 2 lines in and you've already gone full cliche. Never go full cliche.
It's a sign of a good writer, isn't it?
Do you want another one? It's a short one.
Yeah, go on.
Scorch marks marred the walls, the floors, the ceilings.
So what are we getting from the setting of that? Is it some kind of horror then? Is it something like that maybe?
Well, I wouldn't like to say. But we're not judging genre here. We're judging the effect of the first line. And what about the triple? The walls, the floors, the ceilings?
It's not wowing me, I have to say.
I've got to say that, they talked about it in the Douglas Adams review about how he says like bad writers use too many adjectives, but the walls, the floors, the ceilings doesn't give you anything.
No, it just gives you...
like
construction.
Yeah,
best.
It's a room.
Yeah, I've got a room.
Something, but there seems like there's a battle, but you're not getting violence. If you were to say the crumbling walls or the vibrating walls, or the walls that vibrated under the gunfire or something like that, you'd be like, oh right, okay. You're getting a bit more. I think that the triplet there is a bit wasted, and that it's just so...
It's not imaginatively used, is it?
No.
At all.
This is, in the genre, an extremely famous book.
Really?
Would that be something that would make you go, I expected more because of the reputation of that book?
Presumably I'll know it. Or
it might not be
a
genre that you read a lot.
Is it sci-fi then, is it? Or...
No.
Oh, right.
What did you think?
I'm thinking I wouldn't read on. I'm thinking if I've got a choice of that and something else, then...
Well, you've always got a choice of something else. There's millions of books. Do you know what I mean? And the premise that you're in a bookshop, you pick it up. Am I going to buy this book?
Yeah.
We assume you like the cover enough to pick it up and look at the front page.
Yeah. Could you just do the first line one more time?
The palace still shook occasionally as the earth rumbled in memory, groaned as if it would deny what had happened.
The earth rumbled in memory. It's quite interesting, actually. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's quite interesting.
It does, in terms of the genre, does speak like this is... There's a history.
Earth rumbled.
I don't think what comes after that, particularly the dust motes, it's like I would really...
Yeah.
That's been done so many times that I'd be inclined to go, what else could I do if you really want some sort of imagery in there?
So that's quite a good first line. Is the dust motes the second line?
Bars of sunlight cast through rents in the walls
made
motes of dust glitter where they yet hung in the air.
Yeah, I see what you mean. It has been.
So you've got that unusual yet as well, which I think, in terms of genre, is to make this try and sound like more epic, like an oldie, adventure. Whether that succeeds or not, when you are dealing with probably the dust motes, is become a cliche because of Hollywood, hasn't it? So that
you can picture that quite well.
It's a little bland. It's like that first sentence set a benchmark, and the rest have not
got anywhere near.
No.
So I might say maybe I wouldn't read on. Yeah.
Right. I
think.
I
Yeah.
probably would.
Yeah.
Wouldn't. And I feel like I've been the most critical of the two of us, but I probably would read on because of the genre and the fame of this book.
Right.
But there is one thing that puts me off the book, which is the fact that it is a doorstep. It is Robert Jordan's The Eye of the World.
Right, yeah, I've not
the Wheel of Time series.
experienced that at all.
Score out of 10? For the first line alone.
You'd give it a 6 or a 7, wouldn't you?
Yeah.
I think.
And for what came after, does that lower it a little?
Yeah, it's got to reduce it to sort of a 5, isn't it?
I was pleasantly surprised.
Yeah.
I would have said like maybe a 7 or even higher. But that Dust Motes would be like a 3.
Yeah,
and then you're really struggling. The primroses were over.
The primroses were over. That sounds familiar. Would it be familiar to me or not?
You might have read it. It's very famous, but
yeah, primroses are over. Yeah, I mean, I would definitely read on.
Towards the edge of the wood, where the ground became open and sloped down to an old fence and a brambly ditch beyond, only a few fading patches of pale yellow still showed among the dog's mercury in the oak tree roots.
Yeah, go for it.
Why? What's...
It's just nicely descriptive.
What does this have that the Wheel of Time didn't?
Well, you've not got the colours, it's utilising the colours of primroses and sort of elongating that out as it's gone into the second sentence.
So you're not really interested in like the walls shaking as a castle about to collapse. Not interesting. Flower bed.
A flower bed.
I think we're getting a valuable insight into the sort of books that you read.
Yeah, no, give me death and walls crumbling over the primroses.
How about I give you the next line?
Go on, yeah.
On the other side of the fence, the upper part of the field was full of rabbit holes.
Right. Is that literally the next sentence?
Yeah.
Full of rabbit holes. What's after the rabbit holes?
I'm not going to read the whole book.
I need a bit more. I need a bit more.
In places, the grass was gone altogether, and everywhere there were clusters of dry droppings, through which nothing but the ragwort could grow. What sort of genre do you think? What sort of...
Well, it seems really hard to tell, don't you think?
Do you think that this is a book for a younger audience or an attempt at something more literary?
It feels like it's more literary. Really hard, isn't it, to make a snap judgment on that? And I'm not saying that's bad or really good. It's somewhere in between. Which
I think is interesting because in 1972, you think that sort of we are into the modern era of literature, and that the prevailing idea would be get on with it. Get something snappy, get something to hook people in. And I don't think that this author's done that.
No.
I don't even think that they've really tried. If you wanted to do something like this, then you'd be... But you wanted to say, sticking with the fantasy genre, you say like, there was ivy on ruined castles, and it was like, we're dealing with the past, or we're dealing with something that's changed, something that's happened. There's been a period of something changing, whereas here it's just a pure description.
Yeah.
And I'm really not sure that there would be too many books that would begin this way in 2023. I think we just had it drummed into each other.
Immediate action. Yeah, they would be, really.
It's Watership Down by Richard Adams.
Never read that at all.
No, I've never read it either, but I have owned it for about 20 years. It's hard to pick up.
Yeah.
I'm going to read that. Score out of 10 for Watership Down.
So I've got to go for a 5. Really.
I'm going to go for a 4.
Book 3.
While you're playing on your phone, I'm just going to explain the other rule of the game, which is that if there's a character name that would give away the book, then we use Fred or Edith Bloggs. Okay?
Oh, that's right, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Fred Bloggs.
That does confuse it a little bit, I must admit. Doesn't it? Because now I'm thinking of something stupid with Fred Bloggs.
But what does it say, like when it just begins with a character name?
Well, yeah, that's it.
If the opening sentence had been, for example, it's not, but say it was Oscar Wilde.
Yeah.
Is that going to hook you in more?
What, if it's like Oscar Wilde full stop?
Yeah.
It would, because it's Oscar Wilde.
Yeah, but it's not written by Oscar Wilde.
No.
But you go, okay, so what about that celebrity status gives it more impact than, I don't know, Arthur Downton or something like that?
Oh yeah, I mean, if you were to choose Oscar Wilde against Arthur Hampton or something, then yeah, I mean, because of course, whatever it is that you know about Oscar Wilde, you're going to bring that to the name.
Right.
Certainly, there's more flamboyance in Oscar Wilde than there is.
Well, obviously, that would be, I would expect, one, it's a period piece, two, it wouldn't necessarily be, because it could be that some girl in a coffee shop reading a book, and it turns out to be a thoroughly modern book about somebody else. But it does have connotations. There's expectations with it. You go,
oh yeah,
okay, what next? So I think that's not a bad start.
Is it still intertextuality if it's a name reference like that? Because you would reference a text to pull into your text for a variety of reasons. So if you're doing it with a name, particularly right at the start, you're overlaying your whole structure of story or writing with that.
With a layer of expectation that you would then either
That's
try
quite
to live up to
interesting,
or subvert.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I think that it does.
Oscar Wilde was not wild, full stop. That'd be bloody brilliant.
You're starting your book with a lie. Unreliable narrator.
Yeah. Well, there you go, you see. Yeah, that's right, yeah. So
what are we feeling about Fred Bloggs? Back on track.
So does it actually begin with a name?
Yes.
Oh, right. Thought we just went off on a wild tangent.
Not quite.
Wild, an Oscar Wilde tangent. So Fred Bloggs, full stop. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's hard, isn't it? Because I don't know the actual name. Would I know the name if you read it?
Yep.
Oh,
it
really?
Would give it away immediately.
Would it? Are you sure?
Yep.
Oh, you have to. I'd read on. Yeah, definitely.
That was the kid's name. There he was, smirking out the living room window and waving. He was actually waving! !
You sure I'd know this?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds like Hyman to me.
Sounds like who?
Hyman.
No.
Okay, yeah, read on. Yeah, definitely.
What about it?
It's the context. It's just just somebody waving out the window, I suppose.
It's not unusual.
No, but you would hope, it being in a book, that there was something unusual about it.
The exclamation mark. He's actually waving. It's like there's been a conflict. Yeah. There is that to it.
Because he was waving. He is actually waving.
Waving. He was actually waving!
Right.
So there's clearly been.
Yeah.
There's a mismatch in expectations in the relationship, or there's a conflict of some description. There's something going on.
See, it could be that they're being rude little bastard. He's actually waving. He shouldn't be waving.
What should he be doing?
I don't know.
Okay, there's another character name.
Yeah. And
it's a different character name.
Yeah.
Fred Bloggs felt his blood boil.
Oh, hang on. So this Fred Bloggs is not the Fred Bloggs.
It's a different Fred Bloggs.
Oh, right. That's confusing.
Fred Bloggs 2 felt his blood boil.
Right. The one seeing the one waving. Right. Yeah, you see, you've got a bit more context, so that person shouldn't be waving then, maybe. He's doing it out of spite.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah.
Or at least a misreading of...
Yeah.
Yeah, so there's definitely something there.
It's actually waving. Yeah, so I would read on.
How are you feeling?
Yeah,
is there something...
It's unusual, isn't it? You've got a bit of drama there, or at least a bit of tension, or at least a little bit of uncertainty, because you don't know quite what's going on. So, and I know we didn't know what was going on with the rabbit field, but it didn't really make you want to ask what was going on either, did it?
No.
At least this makes you think, what is... You've got, like you say, there's two people, there's a bit of conflict there. Why is that happening?
With the rabbit thing, there was...
And it's human behaviour. Sorry to interrupt, but it's human behaviour.
Yeah.
You can relate to it. Yeah.
With the rabbit thing, there was an expectation that it would get to a point.
Yeah.
We didn't know what of anything was going on, but here we have a very relatable situation, some sort of social miscue or some sort of not quite sure what conflict has occurred. If I read on, he squirmed in the back seat of the police car, pulling at his handcuffs.
I don't know if I'm going to know this. Really, is it really famous? his handcuffs. Yeah, again, it's building on that uncertainty, so I would definitely read on.
Is there anything in the language? I'm not really picking anything up. It seems functional. It really is. I mean, we don't even know what country they're in, what type of police car, why is he handcuffed? There's a lot of questions here.
Yeah, it feels very, plot. It's like it would be a plot-driven story, whereas the Rabbit Field is potentially more literary and there's associations that you're not quite sure about. This feels like it would be a plot-driven story.
Yeah, but it's interesting that we're given the names. If you're trying to build uncertainty in the tension, what's happening here, then perhaps you wouldn't give the names, which they're clearly known to each other, but also clearly known to the reader.
Right. Interestingly, though, on the name thing, if it just had he, was waving, he was actually waving, then the other person was a he watched them wave. I think without the names, yes, it's more ambiguous and obviously more uncertain, but it could be potentially annoying as well.
I've done on a few videos like the pronoun game when authors,
and then you get confused.
Have just muddled their pronouns and you're like, who the hell are you talking about? But there are other ways of building if you're like wanting to play on the uncertainty, like you can use rhetorical questions and things like one of the why was he waving at me? Why was he waving? What did he think was true. Between us? Could build up that sort of tension. Although the examples I gave are a little on the nose.
Yeah. That's more subtle, isn't it? It's more nuanced, maybe. Yeah, I would read on. Also,
you want a little bit more?
Yeah, sure.
His partner, Fred Bloggs 3, just stared dumbly out of the window. Actually, that's not right. It just stared dumbly out the window. So this seems like it's an American.
Yeah.
I think most British authors would use the.
So it's really famous.
Oh yeah.
It's not a famous author. The book's famous.
The book's famous.
Right. Well, probably a famous author too, but yeah.
No.
Oh right. I don't know. I mean, I would read on. Yeah, I would. Just to kind of get a bit more context.
As the car backed out of the character named driveway, both men lurched forward in their seats. We got 'em, 'EM, chief, ... the policeman said into his radio. What do you think of the 'EM, we got 'em?
Well, I suppose it's
It's creeping towards a cliche.
Yeah, we got 'em. I suppose it does indicate how people sound.
And what about said into his radio? Is like perhaps we could have used something there to give like a sense of how do you actually feel about that.
Interestingly, though, would you say triumphantly, or would you? Is that what you mean? Would you?
You could say said triumphantly into the radio, but I probably wouldn't.
No,
I'd probably
wouldn't either.
They want them to be really cheerful, like something like hooted or called or cried, or just a different word for said, like a different verb as opposed to putting an adverb with it.
So with it just being said, do you think you get any impression of how it's said?
No.
You don't? No.
There are...
We got them. See, to me, if it's just said, I still feel that there's a little layer to be interpreted as we got them, this is good. Maybe not triumphantly, but, finally we got, that kind of thing. I think you can still detect.
But if this was a script for a film, you're given we got 'em. So you're in the police car.
Yeah.
You've got to have context. Who are these people? To know how to deliver that line. Are these famous criminals? Like if you've just nicked Al Capone, you don't go, we got him, chief.
Yeah. You see we got him. Yeah, I see what you mean. Yeah. You'd have to be careful as an author, though, wouldn't you? Particularly how many he cried or claimed or
There's a guy on the internet called David Stewart, famous for his Star Wars videos as much as anything. Also offers literary criticism and writing advice. And one of the things that he said is you should never really use anything other than said.
Right.
Because if you put a question mark there, why do you need to say he asked? Because a question mark tells you that it was a question. However, while I can kind of see, you don't want to be too much with it, because if you're doing it all the time, when you actually want to do something with emphasis, you can't, because you've been doing it all the way through.
Yeah.
So I can kind of see you don't want to use things other than said too much.
Yeah.
But if you just use said, and even allowing for the dialogue where you don't put anything at all, but if you only ever use said, it would be really boring.
True. Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those fine lines, I think. I think as a general advice, if you can use the language in the speech to indicate what the feeling is, then that's the one you go for. But if you need a little bit extra, then maybe you could occasionally, pepper your book with it, but not much.
This is also the first page of the book.
Yeah.
So I feel like I want to know. We got him, Chief. Or we got him, Chief. I want to know.
You read that very well.
I'm glad.
Yeah, you did.
All them acting classes.
I was quite.
It's 5 years at Juilliard paying off.
Yeah. I really believed you got them as well. Fabulous, yeah.
So what are you thinking?
I still would read on, yeah.
Okay, but I'm not going to read anything.
No.
Score out of 10?
Well, by comparison, it has to be a 10, doesn't it? Because I want to read more, but...
Right.
But it's not... It's what it is, it's plot-driven. It's not literary, and we all know what we don't mean by literary. But it hasn't got the combination of the two. So would it be a 10? Let's go for 8 out of 10.
8 out of 10?
Yeah.
I'm impressed. And I'm
You're going to kill me, aren't you?
And I'm sure the author of the novelisation of Home Alone 2 will be well impressed as well.
I know what I'm talking about, mate.
So I just got to say that if I'd gone first line of the book,
go on.
Kevin McAllister, that was the kid's name.
Yeah, of course, yeah, Kevin, yeah. To be honest, it might not have twigged though if you said Kevin McAllister until I had a bit more.
Would you have when I said Harry and Marv?
Of course, yeah. Fucking hell. Yeah.
We should be writing
that English degree was really worth it, wasn't it? Jesus.
The trouble is now is when we look at the other books, you've got to come up with something better than an 8 out of 10, because otherwise the film, the novelisation, look at the size of the writing on it as well. It's like so obviously a kid's book.
Look at everyone smoking it. Oh, jeez. But that, as it is, it's a blockbuster. It says here, comedy for the 20th century, based on that. Wow,
I do feel bad for one putting that in there, but two also.
It's genius.
There's a part of it like because it's a sequel, it does put you in a harder position.
But
and also one other thing that's really important is that scene that it describes in the prologue was cut from the film, so you would never have seen that anyway. So
I happened to enjoy the New York one when I was growing up.
I watched it the other day.
Did you?
After reading the book.
Yeah.
And it is fucking terrible.
Is it?
Really, really poor.
I haven't seen it for 25 years maybe.
You might watch it again now. The book's
See,
so
again
good.
though, now I know what it is, I would have a laugh and then put it straight down.
Are you ready?
Yeah.
You've got to be kidding me, the bouncer said, folding his arms across his massive chest.
That sounds like it's from Genesis, doesn't it? No, I was thinking.
Oh no,
I was thinking the Bible.
Dance. Oh, Genesis.
I'm sure that's how Jesus stood once.
No, I just across his massive chest. Yeah. Does this
Pontius Pilate?
Does this come into Douglas Adams? Use your adjectives right or sparingly, because why do I need to know that it's his massive chest? That does. That feels amateur to me.
It's terrible.
In a way that even Home Alone didn't.
No.
This feels amateur.
That is terrible.
I've never read this book before. That's the first line.
Come on, give us it again. It's brilliant.
You've got to be kidding me, the bouncer said, folding his arms across his massive chest. This feels like some 50 Shades of Grey crap.
Yeah, it does. Yeah.
It's just like, what?
Feels
and
like
it is. I think it's just that one word as well. I mean, one is the situation is such a cliche. We talk about
awful, isn't
cliches.
it? Yeah.
So there's a cliched situation, but then there's that adjective.
Massive chair. Yeah.
Folding his arms across his chest works better.
Yeah.
Why would you put that in there?
Just so we don't miss the cue that it's a bouncer who's got big muscles. I think. Yeah. It's massive.
Does bouncer not imply that?
It does to me.
If you close your eyes and I say, imagine a bouncer.
Yeah.
You don't imagine Kevin McAllister. This guy's a big dude.
Yeah. Usually,
and he's got a bit of a surliness about him because otherwise, how can you maintain control when you're dealing with alkies and that?
This is definitely an example of something that A, as a writer, you shouldn't do, and B, as a reader, you shouldn't read.
Yes.
Don't you think?
The thing that you shouldn't do,
Yeah.
absolutely shouldn't do, which I have done, is start your book with a cliche.
Yeah.
Unless, which this isn't, you are absolutely a comedy.
Yeah.
Then it might be all right.
Tricky to pull off a net comedy, though.
Yeah.
You've got to be quite gifted, I think.
You've got to be brilliant like me.
Yeah, exactly right,
Yeah. So,
what's the next line? Go on.
I don't think you're going to improve your opinion anyway. Right. He stared down at the boy in the red zip-up jacket and shook his shaved head. You can't bring that thing in here. Again, adjectives. Red zip-up. Or red if you're just going with zip-up jacket being the noun phrase. But red zip-up says 2. Shaved head, there's a third. It's like, how many do you need? Why? Is it relevant? Like the bouncer has a shaved head. Is this bouncer a character or is he just appearing in the scene? Because if he's appearing in this scene, I'm not saying you can't ever do more, but you don't need to do more than just say bouncer.
Yeah.
Because I don't know too many bouncers, but the bouncers that I have known have tended to be crew cut. Why? Because you can't grab it when somebody's trying to fight you. They tend to be big because they're going to be in a fight at some point in their working week.
Yeah.
It's like all of that is just implied. But I think that what Douglas Adams says is there's a degree of truth in that. In the bad writers use too many adjectives because they feel like they've got to be writing. I've got to show I've commanded the vocabulary, and I've got to, no.
Yeah.
As Home Alone 2 showed us, you just need a decent setup.
Yeah.
And what you've got here is a cliched setup. So you failed on both counts. You're trying to show, oh, look at me, I'm a good writer, when you're not.
Yeah.
You've started with a cliche, which is a horrible beginning. And I'm just like, wow, this looks terrible.
No, I mean, the first line is enough to make me not want to read. I would probably only read it just to see how bad it got. And it would only be a brief flirt with it. You put it down straight away, wouldn't you, really?
Yeah, I wouldn't read this. The reason that I would read this is because I have a YouTube channel. And sometimes when I rip into a book, they get good views and people seem to like that.
Yeah.
And I feel like that it wouldn't take me long to be ripping into this book.
So is this one you own or did you buy it specifically?
No, this is one I owned.
Yeah.
And I bought it because it's extremely popular with teenage girls.
Right.
And because I worked in a school, people say, what do you recommend?
Yeah.
Or in the school library, people say, what do you recommend? I'd like to have read what they're reading.
At least
so I
known what they were talking about.
Because I can say, oh, this one's popular, but I don't know if it's good.
Yeah.
And I'd like to say,
That's true.
These are really popular, but these ones are better. Do
Mm.
you know that?
Yeah.
That, especially if I've got a kid in there that's lively and got something about them.
Yeah.
But this, score out of 10?
Oh, mate. It's not even going to get a 1, is it? I mean, let's be honest. If I have to give it a 1, it's going to have a 1. But
you have to give it a 1, but the problem is I gave Watership Down a 4, and Watership Down it was better than 4 times better than this.
That's what I mean. It's got to be a sliding scale. Yeah. So you've got to up the Watership Down, I think.
Whatever the lowest tolerable score that I can enter would be what I gave it, and it is City of Bones.
City of Bones.
Book 1 of the Mortal Instruments.
Book 1. There's probably like 12 books in this.
Oh yeah, there's at least 5 on the back cover.
Is that self-published or is it?
No, it's Cassandra Clare. It's
bloody hell.
It's Walker Books, that edition. But I know that it's had more than a couple of reprints.
But this is what passes for.
We never even found out what it was he wasn't allowed to bring in.
That's true. Probably like, I don't know, the work of Shakespeare, and this bouncer's saying, you can't bring that in here. This is pandemonium, mate.
Yeah, I'm going to sit in the corner and read a book.
Yeah.
I bet it is a book.
Do you reckon? Yeah. Can't bring that in here. Oh dear.
I'm a vampire hunter. It's a steak. But he says, oh, it's fake foam rubber. He's like, I absolutely am done with that. Like another vampire hunter book.
Yeah.
I don't think there are vampires in this one, actually.
You see, there's an interesting discussion on this, really, is if that gets people reading, or a certain demographic of people reading who otherwise wouldn't, is it a good thing?
It is,
yeah.
Because having worked with teenagers and in schools and in colleges, you know that the more people read, the better their grades
the better they are. Yeah,
Simple as that.
So that's probably a good thing, isn't it?
Absolutely best to get on and read. This will help you with your spelling and your punctuation, if nothing else. And maybe, just maybe, it'll help you read something better in the future. It's a gateway. This is kind of like starting with heroin and hopefully winning yourself down a weed, whereas most people go the other way with their gateway drugs. But this is bad for you. Let the chronicles of my life begin with Bram Stoker.
Of course I would. See, is that not a fine example of a great beginning?
Can I be ultra critical? Do you mind?
No. Yeah, go on.
I wonder if chronicles...
It's a bit antiquated, yeah.
I get it from where the character comes from.
Yeah.
But I'm wondering if in like a hook fast line, whether story might just have been a better way to go.
Maybe.
Or perhaps even legend. However, it does tell you something as well, doesn't it? Which is what we talked about in terms of Home Alone. Is it sets a tone that this isn't going to be a throwaway text. It's got designs on being more.
I think so. I think that's a wonderful...
I can go either way.
A wonderful beginning.
What makes you think that is a particularly like a great hook?
Because I wrote it.
Oh yeah, so you did. In terms of a vampire setup...
Yeah. You wouldn't know it's a vampire though, would you? Oh,
the Chronicles sets it up as being something older, something unusual, a little out of its time perhaps. And the Bram Stoker comes with as heavy a dose of intertextuality as any other word than perhaps Dracula. Yeah. In terms of this is where our stake in the ground is rather than in the chest, is that we have designs on that part of the canon, not the Twilight part of it. So it does set a tone.
So it's a nice, that's a good way of thinking about it.
And I think it's a pretty good hook.
Ah.
I doff my cap to the author, whoever he may be.
Whoever that may be.
And I haven't read the book, so I won't say I highly recommend it. However...
You will do one day.
Reviews are... I've got it now.
And
so
no doubt...
I will read it. But reviews are coming in.
They are.
And they are favourable.
They are so far, yeah.
So what I would suggest people do is they go on Amazon and search for...
The Dracula Illusion.
By...
Scott Alexander.
Alexander.
Yeah, go on, just read a little bit more.
Shall I read it like Nosferatu?
You'll have to die first. No, you'll have to be undead first.
My dear, dear Bram, I'm afraid that in recent years I have concluded that I should have drunk your blood under the moonlight by the ruins of Whitby Abbey.
See, I wrote it, but,
What were you thinking about? What were your goals when you wrote it? Because it's not enough to just think about what you're writing. You've got to go, this is what I want to achieve with this part of it. Yeah,
there's a lot in that, in those couple of sentences that really summate the whole story, or which is integral to the vampire, or their character, I should say. So that opening is doing, I think, quite a lot. But it's only, I think, retrospectively, you'll realise what it's doing. Hopefully there's enough there just to make you go, oh, I'm interested.
I think that it's doing more than just...
I want to read more, but...
I think it's doing more than just working in retrospect. It's working for you as an introduction. For example, Dear Bram, as opposed to Dear Bram, there's familiarity.
Yeah, that's
so
true.
These people are known to each other.
Perhaps
they
you're right on there. Yeah.
To say they like each other could be facetious. It could be the opposite. They don't like each other. You don't know that, but they're known to each other. There's a relationship there, and you start to go, what kind of relationship do they have? I'm afraid that in recent years, so we're talking about recent years, which means obviously there's a whole raft of years prior to that. It's setting a tone of longevity, just like the word Chronicles did for you. And Whitby Abbey, ruins of, absolutely a Gothic staple.
That's
setting a tone there. Moonlight by the ruins of Whitby Abbey. How much more Gothic do you want?
Yeah, that's one of the things. And
definitely. Then there's the I should have drunk your blood. So for me, it's like, okay, so I'm going to have a flashback. I've got to see that relationship or that experience. I want to know how that played out. So I have an idea of what I think Bram Stoker is like. It's probably nothing like what he actually was like.
Yeah.
But you go, okay, this is a guy, an author that has set a genre. It's a big figure. It's like the one that we had with the character name. It sets a tone, like Oscar Wilde. It sets a tone.
Yeah.
So I think that it's a really interesting opening. It really is a good hook.
Thank you very
much. I like the idea of exploring this sort of alternate history, or perhaps the real history of Bram Stoker, as much as exploring the character that's writing this, but we're starting to get a feel for him as well in the word choices that he uses. So I think it's really good.
And I think I wanted it to be quite a little bit typical of a vampire, so there's blood in there, and slightly sensationalist as well, so hopefully it does all those things to at least pique your interest a little bit. Essentially, what I want, or any writer would want to do, is just make that person want to read on. So hopefully from that, if you're interested in that kind of horror genre, it would want you to read on, or make you want to read on, I should say.
I think of the ones that we've looked at today, bar the opening of Richard Jordan, The Wheels of Time, which then sort of tailed off a little bit, is clearly the one that's had the most thought about what do I want to say, how do I want to say it, and what do I want that effect to be on the reader, which is kind of like when you're an English teacher, what you're saying to your students, or at least the good ones, with designs of achieving something with their writing. Like, what are you trying to do? Word choices, how are they helping you? What's the effect on the reader?
Absolutely.
So
excellent. Out of 10, wow.
Couldn't be any less than a 10.
10 doesn't do it justice, really, does it?
Maybe 11 out of 10, but then I get accused of being biased.
Yeah, but you see, I know that you wouldn't be biased, although, people viewing it may think differently.
They might think differently, but I think we've had our ups and downs as a result of my lack of bias.
Lack of tact,
and lack of...
the implication there is that I'm highly sensitive, and you're not.
And a lack of mincing my words occasionally does get me in trouble.
Well, that was a good beginning, wasn't it, to a book, eh? Fine beginning.
Of them in order. So I've got 5 books, I'm going to put them in order. Yeah. And I'm going to go with Dracula Illusion. Then I'm going to go with The Wheels of Time. And then I'm going to go with Home Alone 2. Watership Down.
That's brilliant, Home Alone 2.
And A City of Bones.
I mean, I can't really include mine, really.
I would accuse you of bias. If you did. So
I'm going for Kevin.
Okay, four books to choose from, and you've gone with Home Alone 2 novelisation.
With Kevin,
the best opening of the 4. Do your 4 in order. So you've gone Home Alone 2.
Home Alone. Yeah, probably the Wheels of Time, maybe. Watership Down. Yeah, it was sort of interesting, wasn't it? And then we had too many rabbit stuff, and then City of Bones.
Pitiful.
Terrible, really. But the barrel chest.
The attempt...
No, the massive chest, sorry.
Like that first line, the personification in the first line of The Wheels of Time was decent.
That was good, yeah. The earth rumbled,
It was only the bits that came after that sort of...
Yeah.
Not quite at that level.